Yes, lads, welcome back to the channel. Today it is the EFL preview. We're going to be covering the Championship, League One and League Two to see what I think is going to happen this weekend. So for the Championship, I'm going to talk about 5 games in a little bit more detail. League One and League Two, I'm going to do 3, but I'm also going to give my predictions on the other results. And I'm not just going for a draw, win, loss. I am going to try and call it as accurate as possible. So I've got a scoreline for each one. So yeah. Let's get into this and see who I've predicted to beat who this weekend. I think across League One and League Two in particular, there's a lot of tight games this week. And I really noticed that when I was doing my predictions, I was getting bored of writing 2-1, 1-0, 1-1. So I have tried to, see where I can add a few more goals. But yeah, I think it's going to be really tight this week. So starting with League Two, let's get into it. I've got 3 games, as I say. I'll go through them first and then give my predictions on the other games too. So up first, I have gone for Oldham against Swindon. This is a very fascinating game to me. So Oldham are looking to get their first 3 points of the season. Swindon, of course, beat Cambridge, but did drop points to Walsall, who were down to 10 men on that opening game of the season. So how have I got this? I've got this as a 2-2 draw. I think Swindon might get the first goal, but Oldham will fight back. But overall, it's going to be a very even game. I did say Swindon need to stop conceding goals. So far this season, they haven't. But the one good thing about Swindon is they can always outscore opponents. I don't think they're going to do it here. I do think Oldham have got enough. The goals need to start flowing for Oldham. So yeah, Oldham 2, Swindon 2. I'm very, very keen to see how this one goes. It's one of those games that if I had to choose a winner, I wouldn't be able to pick. That's how tight I see it. Up next, I've decided to go for Crewe against Crawley. Both teams in midweek lost 3-1 in the Carabao Cup. And my prediction is actually for Crewe to now go on and win 3-1 themselves. Crewe seem a bit of a dark horse this season. I didn't necessarily have them down to beat Salford on that opening game. They then played very well against Accrington. Granted, the loss in the midweek, it's the Carabao Cup. I'm not going to read too much into it, but I'm expecting them to get the job done here against a Crawley team that look woeful. And they shouldn't be. On paper, the Crawley side is more than good enough to really sort of push around the mid-table, maybe even have that playoff charge, but yeah. Crawley, it has been a shocking start to life in League Two. That for me is going to continue. I think it's going to be 4 games, 4 losses this season for Crawley, 3 in the league, 1 in the cup. And it's looking a very dismal time. But if they're ever going to turn it around, they do need to start getting some results in. I fear this might be a back-to-back relegation. There's just something off about Crawley, and there's something so right about Crewe right now. For me, no-brainer, 3-1 to Crewe, who are going to cement themselves, I believe, top of League Two at the end of this weekend. And finally, the final game in League Two, I've gone for Shrewsbury up against Colchester. This one just intrigued me a bit because both of these teams I've tipped to get in and around the playoff area, from 12th up to the playoffs. Shrewsbury, shocking start realistically in terms of where their squad is. Colchester, disappointing start. Haven't looked like they've got going too well just yet. Certainly not in the goals category anyway. Shrewsbury last week, the 4-0 loss to Tranmere. That can't happen again. And they were dismantled. Don't get me wrong, there was a red card involved, but they were already 2-0 down at that point. So I'm looking at Shrewsbury as a team that needs to bounce back. They lost 3-1 in the week to Grimsby as well. And granted, Grimsby are a very good side this season. But yeah, it's got to sort itself out. Shrewsbury are desperate for 3 points. Colchester, a bit more of the same. They're going to want to start getting those wins. They're going to need to win away from home in order to get the playoffs this season anyway. So if you are Colchester, you saw what Tranmere did. You're now going to go and want to replicate something similar, go to their place, go and sneak a 1-0, something like that. But I do think Shrewsbury will score, and I think the final score will be 2-1 to Colchester, who will get the job done. Shrewsbury, in a similar boat to Crawley, need to start getting some results. Relegated from League One last season, looks to be another bleak season for Shrewsbury this season. Early days, of course, but if this is a sign of what's to come, Crawley and Shrewsbury, I don't think Shrewsbury will be in trouble. Crawley are in trouble, but not good from either of them. As for the other results, I have gone for Chesterfield 1, Bristol Rovers 1. Bristol Rovers, I just think they're going to be able to get the draw. They are in desperate need of picking up some points. Barnet at home to Walsall. I think when I spoke about the tight games, this is going to be one. I've gone for Walsall 1, Barnet 0, Walsall to get the job done away from home. As for Barrow and Notts County, I'm going to go for 2-1 to Notts County. Notts County, not the best start to the season. A bit disappointing if I'm going to be honest. I've had them to win a couple of times. I'm going to do it again. And I just think that this Barrow team, it's just not really clicking for me. So Barrow will get a goal, don't get me wrong, in front of the home crowd. But Notts County, I'm expecting them to get the business done. If not, they're going to have a think about things. Because this new approach to football, I said it's going to be very interesting. I predicted them the playoffs. It's not worked so far. Again, all of this preference, it's early days, but this is what we've got to go off. Bromley 1, Fleetwood 1. I just feel as though Bromley are a bit of an informed team. I predicted them to finish low down in the table. They're doing their best to make me look stupid early doors this season. And yet, as a collective of a team, they're looking very good. Fleetwood also do look good. I think these two are going to cancel each other out. 1-1 is what I'm going for. A draw on the day. Cambridge versus Harrogate up next. Harrogate, undeniably, great first 2 games in League 2. Unfortunately, the bubble's going to burst. I think that they realistically should have beat Grimsby. They lost in midweek. I'm now thinking they're going to go up against Cambridge, and Cambridge are going to get the job done. Another team that need to start getting some wins under their belt, and this will be a great chance for them to do so. We spoke about Grimsby being such a solid team this season, and I think they're going to prove it again. I'm going to go for Grimsby 2, Newport 0. Just can't see Newport away from home being able to affect the game too much. They might sneak a goal, but I think Grimsby all day long, and I think they're going to continue this great start they've had. Promotion favourites, MK Dons up against Cheltenham. I think MK Dons have had a slow start. There's no denying that. They need to improve. They need to pick it up. Just in terms of general performances, yes, there's still been points on the board, but I think they're going to do it now. I think they're going to maybe take a bit of time to settle into the season, but they're going to get the job done here. I'm going to go for 2-0. I think they're going to get more than 1. Maybe even 3, but I've been conservative and gone 2-0. Salford up against Accrington. I'm going to go for Salford 1, Accrington 0. This one, another tight game, but I think Salford have got enough to get the job done. They do look like a team that's very slowly warming up, and that win away at Notts County last week, that was a great result for them. And I'm expecting more of those results, especially at home. And finally, I've gone for Tranmere 2, Gillingham 2. I think there's goals in this game. I do think it's going to be a draw overall, but if Tamworth? But if Tranmere can find that form that they had against Shrewsbury, anything is possible. Amari Patrick, he was the main man for me last week in terms of who I said was the best player. I'm looking at him again. Goals, assists, he's got it all. I'm expecting him to do so, but will Bradley Dack also show up? And yeah, I think they will. 2-2 overall, Tranmere, Gillingham. So that is League 2 covered. We will now go straight over to League 1. Barnsley up against Bolton for the first game in League 1. I couldn't not choose this one. This, to me, on paper, looks to be a great game. Barnsley in form. That comeback last week was superb. Bolton, early setback in the season against promotion rival Stockport, but then they have since bounced back last week. And I said against Stockport, they were going to score goals, and that is what they have done. Of course, they beat Plymouth last week, a Plymouth side that haven't had a great start to the season, but I'm expecting Bolton now to really push on. Again, as I say, they were unlucky against Stockport, but ultimately lost to the better team. They've now beat Plymouth. They're going to come here, and they're going to expect to try and get 3 points. But it is no easy task against Conor Horahan's Barnsley, who just don't seem to die down, and they've also beaten Plymouth this season. So it's going to be very interesting in terms of how this game plays out. I think it will be tight. I do think the two teams are going to nullify each other a little bit. I was tempted with 2-2. I've actually gone for 1-1 because I just think both teams now are going to be like, right, there's been a few goals that have gone in. Let's just wind it back a little bit and try and keep the goals out. So I'm going to go for 1-1. I'm looking at players like Davis Kelladon to be the main man for Barnsley. He's had a great start to the season. He's who I predicted to be their key player. So players like Davis Kelladon to get the job done. If either team was going to edge it, I'd maybe lean towards Barnsley just based on the recent form. So yeah, 1-1 in League 1 for Barnsley and Bolton. Up next, I'm going to go for Blackpool and Huddersfield. How could I not cover this game? What a game this looks to be. Because Blackpool, so out of form. I thought they were going to be such a solid team this season. And again, I know it's early doors, but 3 losses out of 3. Steve Bruce, very difficult start to life at Blackpool. I think the defence looks so shaky. So for me, up against Huddersfield is their worst nightmare. So in typical Steve Bruce fashion, it could actually be that Blackpool get a 1-0 sneak job. I don't think it will be. I think Lee Grant's side are too strong. The 2-2 draw with Leicester in midweek was very impressive. They just look like they're so ready to go up to the Championship. And if I could do my predictions for League One again, I think I might put Huddersfield in the top 2 because that's just how good they look. But as far as this game goes, I think Huddersfield are going to be too strong defensively, and I think that Blackpool, being so weak as they are at the back, they're going to concede goals. I'm going to go for 2-0 to Huddersfield, and Steve Bruce, the pressure is piling on game after game after game. Yeah, 2-0 to Huddersfield, easy winners on the day. That's the second game. There are a lot of games that I could have gone for the final game. I've decided to go for Doncaster up against Wycombe. This just looks like a great game. And Doncaster, promoted from League 2, of course, they have come up and they look so solid. They look like a team that's going to really come and play football against you and not just, come up and establish themselves. Doncaster are here to try and get promoted again. Do I think they might fall a bit short? Yes, but am I going to enjoy this start to the season that they've made? 3 wins out of 3. Their players look so up for it. The fans have got that belief. Of course I am. Wycombe, the complete opposite. Promotion favourites last season. They've just lost Richard Kone. He's gone to Queen's Park Rangers. That is such a big loss for them. One that they knew was coming, of course. But again, with the start to the season they've made, it just shows that there's a clear need for a goal scorer. And he's just been sold to QPR. So how will they bounce back? That is the big question. The win against Leyton Orient midweek was of course good, but the 2 losses at the start of the season have hurt them a little bit. Don't get me wrong, Stockport, a great team, and it was always going to be hard to go to Bradford on the first game of the season. But now you've got the same problem. You're up against a Doncaster side away from home who are winning and winning and winning. So yeah, Mike Dodds could find himself, similar to Steve Bruce, in a bit of trouble. I'm going to go for Doncaster 3, Wycombe 1. Doncaster to continue this great start they've made and really push on. And look, I said it, I don't think it will quite happen, but who knows? Doncaster to get promoted again. We've seen it happen before. This could be the start of something special for Doncaster fans and the players this season. Elsewhere in League One, I'm going to go for Burton 1, Port Vale 1. I just see that one as such a stalemate. I think Port Vale will be quite keen to get a goal away from home, as will Burton, but I think the two teams are going to cancel each other out. This is another example of when I said the games are tight to call this week. So 1-1, Burton, Port Vale. I've gone for Exeter 2, Mansfield 1. I think Exeter look a lot better than I may have given them credit for. I do think Exeter have always been good at scoring goals, and we're going to see that this week. So I think 2-1, again, another really close game, and probably 2 teams that are going to be in the bottom half of the table maybe overall. But yeah, Exeter looking like a team that aren't going to get relegated, and they are going to get the best of Mansfield. Bradford and Luton, that was a game I so nearly decided to cover. Another great game in League One this week, and this to me is going to be such a tight game. I said Luton may have a few issues in terms of scoring goals this season. We have seen that in terms of the chances created. On paper, the squad is more than good enough, but we've also got Bradford, who at home is looking like a bit of a fortress, to be honest, just in terms of the way the fans get behind the team, and there's a real buzz around them playing there. So what I think is going to happen in this one, I'm going to go for what I think is going to happen in this one, early Luton goal, Bradford to get the equaliser. Final score, Bradford 1, Luton 1. And I think there's 2 teams there that could find themselves, certainly Luton in the top half, but are Bradford, similar to Doncaster, not just here to stay? Are they here to push on? Cardiff up against Rotherham next. Cardiff going to, of course, want to improve on their last league game, drawing 0-0 with Port Vale. And at home, I think they have all the tools to do so. They might be the strongest team at home this season. I think they're going to beat Rotherham 2-0. Rotherham, there was a lot of talk from Rotherham fans this season to myself about how I've got it completely wrong. They'll be nowhere near the relegation zone. And maybe that is the case, but they acted like they'd signed some world beaters. They're going to lose 2-0 for me on the day. I just don't see it. I can't quite see it with them. But yeah, Cardiff, as I say, far too strong at home. 2-0, easy win. Leyton Orient up against Stockport. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Stockport win. Again, another very close game. I do think Leyton Orient have got a goal in them. I'm fed up of saying Aaron Connolly is going to get a goal, but I do think this is the week to do so. Stockport do look good at the back. I see a little bit of a shakiness at times, but going forward, of course, Kyle Wootton proving why he's the main man for them this season. So yeah, Jack Diamond was my player of the week last week. Can he replicate the same form? Mothersill on the right-hand side. I love that Stockport front three, and I think they're going to be too much for Orient on the day. 2-1 the final score. Up next, Lincoln and Plymouth. Plymouth, who are desperate for a win, desperate for a point here in the league. Tom Cleverley saw his team perform quite well in midweek, so he is going to want to carry that form into the weekend. So I don't think Plymouth are going to lose. I think Plymouth are going to get the draw. I think it's going to be Lincoln 1, who look to be decent at home. Lincoln 1, Plymouth 1. Reading up against Wimbledon. Again, another tight game here for me. I'm going to go with Reading 1, Wimbledon 0. I think Reading, a bit of a slow start for Reading. They're going to want to really pick things up. I think 3 points is more important than I think 3 points is more important than anything this week. So 1-0 will be the outcome. I think, as I say, it's going to be a tight game, and I can't see Wimbledon scoring really. So yeah, 1-0 is what I'll go for. Stevenage up against Northampton. I see this as a bit Stevenage up against Northampton. I was so close to going with a Stevenage win. I'm going to go for 1-1. Again, another really tight game. And finally, Wigan up against Peterborough. For me personally, Peterborough have got some good attacking players, but I can't see them scoring this week. I'm going to go for Wigan 3, Peterborough 0. So it's a bit of a big scoreline there, but I think Wigan have got all the tools to dismantle Peterborough. And defensively, with Tickle in goal, they look so solid this season. So yeah, 3-0 to Wigan on the day. Now then, as for the Championship, the first of my 5 games, I'm going to be going for Portsmouth up against Norwich. Now, we know how good Portsmouth are at home. I just think this Norwich side is going to have a little bit too much for them. Overall, I'm going to go for a very tight scoreline. I'm going to go for a 2-1 to Norwich, with the player to watch for Norwich down as Josh Sargent. How could it not be him? He looks like he's going to have another good season. His goal last week, okay, a bit of an interesting goal. But regardless, he's going to want to hit the ground running. There is, of course, speculation from Wolfsburg. Will he still be a Norwich player at the end of the window? I think he will. I think he'll get the start in this game, and I think he's going to get a goal as well. In terms of team news for Norwich, I'm looking at Nunes. Is he going to be fit to start? Will he even start if he is fit? I think there's a lot of talk about should he come in, should he not? We're going to have to see. He's certainly fit to play, of course, but will he get that start? That's the most important question. As for Portsmouth, the player to watch, it's going to be Segasic. He was my one to watch in my season predictions, because from what you can tell from this lad, he's got a lot of ability about him. Josh Murphy, of course, is he going to be fit? That is the main question. If he is fit, does Segasic see himself go down to the bench? I certainly hope not after getting his goal on his first game. But yeah, Segasic going to be the one to watch for me. How is he going to get on? And if Josh Murphy is fit, that could change my prediction. Up next, we've got Wrexham up against West Brom. Wrexham very lucky to still find themselves in the Carabao Cup. I think it was like 94th and 99th minute goal, which is crazy. But this game is going to be very interesting for me. I see this as a draw. I think it's got draw written all over it. I'm going to go for 2-2. And I think the players to watch here are actually going to be Josh Windass and Isaac Price, who I see as playing two very similar roles in that 10 position. Now, Isaac Price last week looked absolutely phenomenal. Really looks like he's settled now at West Brom, ready to push on and show why he's one of their most important players. I also felt with West Brom last week, the wingers just didn't really do much in Grant and Fellows. So I'm going to want to see those two have more of an impact, and maybe up against this Wrexham side, that will be the case. As for Windass, looks so lively in the game against Southampton. Very impressed with what I saw from Windass. So yeah, those two players there, similar role, going to have a huge impact on the game, both of them. Team news-wise, obviously Darnell Furlong picked up a red card in the last game. He will miss this game, of course. As for Wrexham, the most notable one was Jay Rodriguez. Maybe he can make the bench, still not 100% sure, but it'll be a big boost for Wrexham to get him back. He's got a lot of experience. I will give him that. Up next, I've gone for Bristol City up against Charlton. Again, another close game. I'm anticipating Charlton to maybe struggle a little bit away from home this season. I'm going to go for a Bristol City win. I'm going to go for Bristol City 2, Charlton 1. Close game, as I say, and in terms of the players to watch out for Charlton, I'm going to go for Charlie Cowman, because I think he needs to get a goal just to help build his confidence in the league. And I think this is the game where he might be able to do it on the counter, a poacher's finish. So I'm going to go for Charlie Cowman. And in regards to the Charlton team, who is going to start? Obviously, we saw Harvey Nibbs come off the bench for them and get the all-important goal last week. So is he now justified to start getting into that Charlton midfield, of course, with Connor Coventry and Doherty? That is no easy task. So I'm going to be very interested to see where he fits in. As for Bristol City, I had to go with Scott Twine. If this man can stay fit, Bristol City have got themselves one of the best players in the league, and he, for me, is going to be the main man once again. Back at Ashton Gate, he's going to want to put another great performance in. Team news-wise, for Bristol City, I wanted to just highlight Max O'Leary. So I debated who's going to be number one. Why would you loan Vitek if he wasn't going to be number one? And after a great debut, I think that shirt is his to lose. O'Leary should be back, maybe not this week, maybe they won't rush him back. Realistically, though, he will just be sat on the bench. But O'Leary to come back soon. Who's going to have that number one position? My money on Vitek so far. Up next, I'm going to go for Sheffield Wednesday up against Stoke. And this was such a hard one to call. I do think that Sheffield Wednesday, all credit to them, ploughing on, trying their best to get the results for the fans. But I think they've suffered a huge blow. So Barry Bannon, I believe, is still suspended from the first game. But more importantly, Chalobah looks like he's going to be back mid to late September, which is just a huge blow for a team that couldn't afford any blows like that. Obviously, he got the goal against Leicester and now looks to be out sitting on the sideline for a number of weeks, which is just killer for Sheffield Wednesday. And I think that will feed into where I think this game's going to go. I think the final score is going to be Stoke 1, Sheffield Wednesday 0. And I just think Stoke are going to have too much for them. And with that, the player to watch out for me is going to be Mbamba. On loan from Manchester City, and he just looks dangerous. He just looks like he wants to get on the ball. He looks a threat up front. You sometimes see these players come to the Championship on loan, and you just can tell that they're a good player from the very first game. And this is what I see exactly with him. Similar to Jamie Donnelly, who I'm very keen to see if he's going to feature. Can he grab himself a start? Did well when he came on last week. So yeah, the two lone lads for Stoke are who I'm looking at as the key players. So the player to watch is going to be Bailey Cadamatri, if I've said that right. That to me is just, my brain is not computing with how that's supposed to be said. But this lad looks a very good player, 20 years of age. I'm expecting him to be one of the bright lights at Sheffield Wednesday this season. So yeah, I think he will be the man that could maybe do something, but I'm going to go for 1-0 to Stoke, and that Sheffield Wednesday, more misery piled on top of them. And for me, the best game till last, I'm going to go for Ipswich up against Southampton. This is just a great game on paper. Both teams up against newly promoted teams for the first game of the season. Southampton may have dominated the game against Wrexham, but left it late to get a winner. Ipswich looked second best against Birmingham and were very fortunate themselves to also get a late winner with the penalty. So yeah, how are these two teams going to go up against each other? I think it's going to be a very tight game. I am going to go for an Ipswich 2-1 win against Southampton, which may not make tons of sense in terms of how well Southampton did play against Wrexham. It looks as though today Amari Hutchinson has left. So now I'm anticipating Ipswich to really push on. The players that they needed to get rid of are gone. This is their squad. They are a lot more settled than maybe a team like a Southampton, who may still have 2 or 3 players poached before the end of the transfer window. And in terms of the players to watch out for me, in terms of Southampton, it's going to be Shea Charles. Had a great game last game, and he's the sort of player that I look at. As I've mentioned before, if you don't have a good centre defensive midfielder in the Championship, you're going to struggle. And they've got that with him. Look at Sheffield United. They look like they are going to really struggle in terms of teams just breaking them down without Vinny Souza. Well, Shea Charles is Southampton's answer. As for Ipswich, I'm going to go for Sammy Schmodics. I just think this lad is such a good Championship striker, and Ipswich need a few goals. For me, I look at the Ipswich team and think, who's going to take this team by the scruff of the neck? Who's going to be the main man? We're still yet to see Jaden Philogene. If he's back for this game, of course, he will stake a claim to it. But I look at Sammy Schmodics and think, you had a great season last time out in the Championship. Time to get going. Time to get some goals. Ipswich, a bit of injury news. Harry Clark, not set to make the game. I think he's actually going to be September until he's back. But the only real noticeable one out for Ipswich. And for Southampton, it's not an injury. It's Cameron Archer. It's his time for me. Adam Armstrong, of course, a good striker. But I think Adam Armstrong, in comparison to Cameron Archer needs to start. It's plain and simple. Archer needs to start. And Southampton may actually find if they do start him, the goals will come. Archer and Armstrong, very similar sorts of players. You can't have both on the pitch at the same time when you're drawing anyway. Cameron Archer, going to be the one to watch out for just in terms of team news. Is he going to get the start ahead of Adam Armstrong? As for the rest of the Championship, I'm going to go for Derby and Coventry up first. Derby 1, Coventry 1. Coventry looking to improve on that 0-0 against Hull. Derby, of course. John Eustace did say that the Derby team needs time. I think he's just saying that to buy his players a bit of pressure off. So I'm going to go for 1-1 on this one. A bit of a stalemate between Coventry and Derby, and Coventry can't score goals. Derby can score a goal, but Blackburn up against Birmingham up next. I think this is going to be a tighter game than a lot of people are given credit for. Blackburn 0, Birmingham 1. That is my prediction. I think Birmingham will have enough on the day to get the job done. And I'm looking at players like Kyogo, who honestly I think he had the fewest touches of an outfield player against Ipswich. What's not to love? When he gets on the ball, things happen. That's what I want to see. Millwall 1, Middlesbrough 1. I think Middlesbrough are going to go there. They're going to be more than happy to take a point. I think Alex Neil, Rob Edwards, going to be the sort of game. It's a bit scrappy, very difficult to read. So yeah, I've played it safe on that one. I've gone for 1-1. Preston up against Leicester. I think Leicester, very good squad, don't get me wrong. But I think Preston are going to be quite difficult to break down. But once Leicester do get them, very similar to Sheffield Wednesday, I think that there's going to be another goal. So I'm going to go for 2-0 to Leicester, even though I do think Preston will give it a good go and they will be hard to break down. Swansea up against Sheffield United. Swansea, of course, quite good at home. Sheffield United, I just don't know where these guys are. I put them outside the playoffs in my season predictions. I think the start of the season shows me why. Gustavo Hamer, this guy is a joke. The fact that he scored that goal from the halfway line, in disbelief, but also not disbelief. This is the same guy that scored a header from outside the box. Never forget that. But yeah, 1-1 on the day. Nice, even stalemate. Watford look a bit shaky defensively. QPR have arguably one of the best attacks in the league on paper. I also think Watford have got a good attack. I'm a big fan of this Nestor Irankudu. So I'm going to go for 2-2 on the day. Are we going to see Richard Kone for QPR? I think it would be a very exciting time for QPR fans if they do. Who knows? He may come off the bench. I'm not even sure if he's able to have been registered just yet. So yeah, 2-2 on the day, QPR, Watford. Both teams, though, that I do think are going to have strong seasons. And finally, it's Hull Oxford. And I genuinely, as I've said, I don't see Hull having a good season. Oxford, 1-0 winners on the day. Maybe a bit controversial, but Oxford to get the job done. So that is it in terms of the EFL preview. Of course, we'll be back with the EFL review where we'll go into a bit more detail on all the games, of course. But I just wanted to get my preview out there just to see where I think teams are going to land this week. Of course, I'm going to be doing an accumulator over on X. We've got the Premier League to work with as well, so I can't wait for this week. Football is fully back now. I've done a Premier League season prediction as well as a game week 1 prediction. So if you haven't seen them and you're interested, go and check them out. Of course, if you are enjoying the content, please do subscribe. It means a lot to everyone that has subscribed. Likes as well. If you could spare me a like, I'd be very appreciative. Helps the algorithm get the video to the people it needs to get to. But yeah, listen, football is back, as I say. I'm very excited. This weekend is just football, football, football. I cannot wait. I'll see you guys on the next one, back for the EFL review on Monday. Yep, take it easy, lads. I'll see you on the next one.